Admiral Sarah Chen stared at the holographic display floating above her desk, her coffee growing cold as the implications of the data sank in. The blue glow of Earth's orbital defense grid flickered in the background through her office window, but her attention was completely absorbed by the readings from the deep space probe Magellan. "Computer, replay the sensor logs from Sector 7 Alpha," she commanded, her voice steady despite the excitement building in her chest. The hologram shifted, showing a region of space that appeared completely empty to conventional sensors. But the quantum resonance detectors told a different story. Massive structures were moving through the void, invisible to normal detection methods but clearly present when viewed through humanity's newest technology. Dr. Marcus Webb, the lead physicist on the project, had been right all along. Dark matter wasn't just mysterious particles floating through space. It could be manipulated, shaped, and formed into solid structures. The theoretical framework he'd presented 3 years ago had seemed impossible then. Now, watching the probe's data stream, Sarah realized they were looking at proof that someone had already mastered this technology. The structures were enormous, each one the size of a small moon. They moved with purpose through the galaxy's outer rim, following trajectories that suggested intelligent control. But what troubled Sarah most was their direction. Every single dark matter construct was heading toward the galactic core, where the great civilizations of the Galactic Council made their homes. "Admiral," her aide Lieutenant Torres entered the office carrying a sealed datapad. "Priority message from Deep Space Command. They're requesting immediate confirmation of the Magellan's findings." Sarah took the pad and quickly scanned the message. The words made her stomach clench. 3 more probes had detected similar dark matter formations in different sectors. All were converging on inhabited systems. The pattern was unmistakable. This was an invasion force. "Get me a direct line to the Galactic Council," Sarah ordered. "Emergency channels only." As Torres hurried out, Sarah turned back to the hologram. Humanity had only been part of the Galactic Council for 50 years, still considered newcomers by most of the elder races. The Zephyrians had been spacefaring for over 10,000 years. The crystalline Vorthon civilization claimed to be older than recorded history. Even the youngest council races had centuries of galactic experience on humanity, but none of them had detected this threat. Their sensors, advanced as they were, couldn't penetrate the dark matter veil. Only human technology, born from their peculiar approach to quantum physics, could see what was coming. The communication array crackled to life, and the familiar blue-scaled face of Council Speaker Thane appeared on the screen. The Aquarians. Gill slits fluttered with what Sarah had learned to recognize as impatience. "Admiral Chen, this is highly irregular. Emergency channels are reserved for—" "Speaker Thane," Sarah interrupted, knowing she was committing a serious breach of diplomatic protocol. "We've detected a massive invasion force heading toward the galactic core. Dark matter constructs, each the size of a moon moving with intelligent purpose." The speaker's large eyes blinked slowly, a sign of confusion among his people. "Dark matter cannot be formed into solid structures, Admiral. This is basic physics." "With respect, Speaker, that's what we thought too. I'm transmitting the probe data now." As the data flowed through the quantum entanglement communication link, Sarah watched Thane's expression change from skepticism to concern to outright alarm. The Aquarian skin color shifted from blue to a pale green, their species equivalent of going white with fear. This appears to be genuine sensor data," Thane said slowly. "But our most advanced scanners show nothing in these sectors. That's because dark matter interacts differently with electromagnetic radiation than normal matter," Sarah explained. "Our quantum resonance detectors can map dark matter structures by measuring gravitational lensing effects and quantum field fluctuations." Thane was already turning away from the screen, shouting orders in his native language. When he turned back, his expression was grim. "Admiral, I'm calling an emergency session of the full council. How quickly can you reach the core worlds?" Sarah checked her ship's status. The Enterprise, humanity's most advanced exploration vessel, was docked at the lunar shipyard undergoing routine maintenance. 18 hours if we push the fusion drives to maximum. "Do it. And Admiral, Bring everything you have on this dark matter detection technology. If this threat is real, humanity may be the only species capable of tracking it. As the transmission ended, Sarah was already moving toward the door. She paused only to grab the quantum physics textbook from her desk. Dr. Webb's original research notes were still tucked between the pages. 3 years ago, the Council had politely dismissed his dark matter theories as interesting but impractical. Now those same theories might be the key to saving every civilization in the galaxy. The irony wasn't lost on her. Humanity, the youngest and least experienced member of the Galactic Council, had stumbled upon a technology that made them the galaxy's best hope for survival. As she hurried toward the transport that would take her to the Enterprise, Sarah couldn't shake the feeling that this was just the beginning. Whatever was coming through the dark matter veil, it was vast, ancient, and utterly alien. And somehow, humanity had become the only species capable of seeing it approach. The elevator descended toward the launch bay, and Sarah's mind raced through the implications. If these dark matter constructs were hostile, the established galactic powers would be fighting blind. Their energy shields, plasma weapons, and quantum torpedoes were all designed to combat matter-based threats. But what could conventional weapons do against an enemy made of dark matter itself? The Great Chamber of the Galactic Council had witnessed many historic moments over the past 3 millennia, but never had its crystalline walls reflected such tension. Representatives from 47 different species sat in their designated sections, their various forms of communication creating a symphony of clicks, whistles, telepathic humming, and translated speech. Admiral Sarah Chen stood at the center podium, feeling remarkably small despite commanding one of humanity's most advanced starships. Around her, beings that had mastered interstellar travel before humans had invented the wheel watched her with expressions ranging from polite skepticism to outright dismissal. "Honored council members," Sarah began, her voice amplified by the Chamber's universal translation system. "The evidence is clear. We face an unprecedented threat from entities using dark matter technology far beyond our current understanding." The holographic display above her head showed the probe data in stunning detail. Massive structures moved through the void like ghost ships, invisible to conventional sensors, but clearly visible through humanity's quantum resonance technology. The formations were eerily organized, moving in perfect coordination toward the galaxy's most populated systems. High Archon Velith of the Zephyrian Empire was the first to speak. Her crystalline form shimmered with what Sarah had learned indicated deep thought among her people. "Admiral Chen, while we appreciate humanity's enthusiasm for sharing intelligence, these readings contradict fundamental laws of physics that have been established for over 8,000 years." Murmurs of agreement rippled through the chamber. The Vorthon delegation's collective consciousness spoke through their primary node, a being of living crystal whose voice resonated like wind chimes. "Our gravitational sensors detect no anomalies in the sectors you've indicated. Dark matter, by definition, cannot form coherent structures." "That's exactly what makes this threat so dangerous," Sarah replied, trying to keep the frustration out of her voice. "Your sensors are designed to detect conventional matter and energy. Dark matter interacts primarily through gravitational forces and quantum field effects. Our detection method is unproven and based on theoretical models," interrupted Commander Drix of the Hegemony, his insectoid mandibles clicking with obvious disdain. "Humanity has been part of this council for merely 50 standard years. Your species has not yet developed the scientific maturity to understand the complexities of galactic physics." The dismissal stung, but Sarah pressed on. "With respect, Commander, age doesn't make scientific data less valid. Our quantum resonance detectors have been tested extensively. The readings are consistent across multiple probe deployments." She gestured to the hologram, highlighting the movement patterns. "Look at the formation behavior. These aren't random dark matter clumps. They're moving with purpose, intelligence, and coordination. Each structure is approximately 2,000 kilometers in diameter, and they're all converging on major population centers." Senator Korth of the Galactic Defense Force leaned forward, his reptilian features creased with concern. "Even if we Accept your data as accurate, Admiral. What exactly are you suggesting? That we mobilize the entire galactic fleet against invisible enemies based on readings from experimental human technology? I'm suggesting we prepare for the possibility that this threat is real, Sarah said firmly. Our projections show these formations will reach the outer colonies within 6 standard months. If they are hostile, we need to be ready. The chamber erupted in a cacophony of alien voices. Some species debated among themselves in rapid, untranslated languages. Others directed questions at Sarah that the translation system struggled to parse. Through it all, she noticed that several delegates were quietly accessing their personal communication devices, likely reporting back to their home governments. High Archon Velith raised her hand for silence, and the chamber gradually quieted. Admiral Chen, you must understand our position. The Zephyrian Empire alone has invested tens of thousands of years developing our understanding of galactic physics. Our sensor networks span hundreds of systems. If such a massive threat existed, we would have detected it. Unless the threat specifically uses technology designed to evade your sensors, Sarah countered. Dark matter comprises over 80% of the universe's mass, but we've barely begun to understand it. What if someone or something has learned to harness it? Dr. Kilnara, the chief scientist from the academic collective, spoke up from her floating platform. Her energy-based form flickered with patterns that Sarah's translation implant identified as deep concern. The theoretical framework for dark matter manipulation has been explored extensively. The energy requirements alone would be astronomical. No known civilization possesses such capabilities. No known civilization, Sarah emphasized. But these structures didn't build themselves. Someone or something created them, and they're heading straight for us. Commander Drix's laugh was a harsh, chittering sound. Humans and their tendency toward paranoia. You detect some anomalous readings and immediately assume the worst. This is precisely why younger species require guidance from the established powers. The comment sparked angry responses from several other recently admitted species, turning the discussion into a broader debate about council hierarchy and decision-making authority. Sarah watched the proceedings with growing dismay, realizing that politics and pride were blinding the council to a very real threat. Enough! The voice belonged to Elder Thoughtkeeper Zahn of the Ancient Archivists, a species so old they claimed to remember the formation of the galactic spiral arms. The chamber fell silent immediately. Even the eldest races showed the archivists deep respect. This human brings us data, Zion said slowly, his multi-layered voice carrying harmonics that seemed to resonate in Sarah's bones. Whether we understand their methods or not, the data exists. To dismiss it without investigation would be unwise. High Archon Velith nodded reluctantly. Very well. We propose a compromise. Admiral Chen, you will be granted access to our deep space monitoring network. If your dark matter formations exist, surely they will affect gravitational patterns or stellar radiation in detectable ways. Sarah felt a glimmer of hope. Thank you, High Archon. I believe that with proper calibration we can adapt your existing sensors to detect quantum field fluctuations that indicate dark matter structures. You have 72 standard hours, Velith announced. If you can provide verifiable proof through our established sensor networks, the Council will consider mobilizing a response. Until then, this session is suspended. As the delegates began filing out, Sarah remained at the podium, staring at the holographic display. 72 hours to prove the existence of an invasion force that had taken her team months to detect, with specialized equipment. The political machinery of the galaxy was slow to turn, but the dark matter fleet wouldn't wait for bureaucratic approval. She activated her personal communicator. Enterprise, this is Admiral Chen. Begin immediate preparations for deep space reconnaissance. We're going to get a closer look at these formations. If the Council wouldn't believe the data, she'd have to get evidence they couldn't ignore, even if it meant taking her ship directly into the path of an alien force that could manipulate the very fabric of space itself. The Enterprise hung in the vast emptiness between star systems, her quantum resonance sensors painting a picture that would have been impossible for any other ship in the galaxy to see. Through the view screen, space appeared completely normal. Distant stars twinkled peacefully and the cosmic background radiation hummed its ancient song. But the sensor displays told a very different story. Distance to target formation, 50,000 kilometers in closing, reported Lieutenant Commander Zhang from the sensor station. Dark matter density is off the charts, Admiral. Whatever that thing is, it's massive beyond anything in our database. Admiral Sarah Chen stood behind the captain's chair, her eyes fixed on the three-dimensional tactical display that showed their surroundings. The dark matter construct loomed ahead like a mountain in the void, its structure becoming clearer as they approached. It wasn't just a shapeless mass, there were patterns, geometries, almost like architecture. Any response to our approach? She asked. None detected, reported Communications Officer Lieutenant Park. We've been broadcasting on all frequencies for the past hour. Standard first contact protocols, mathematical sequences, even music, nothing. Chief Science Officer Dr. Rebecca Martinez looked up from her console, her face pale with excitement and fear. Admiral, the quantum field readings are incredible. This thing isn't just made of dark matter. It's actively manipulating space-time around itself. The gravitational effects should be tearing local space apart, but somehow the structure is maintaining perfect stability. Sarah nodded grimly. Any theories on how that's possible? The only explanation I can think of involves technology that can manipulate fundamental forces at the quantum level. We're talking about science that makes our most advanced theories look like cave paintings. The bridge fell silent as that information sank in. Humanity had always prided itself on rapid technological advancement, but this was something entirely beyond their understanding. If these beings could control gravity and space-time itself, what chance would conventional weapons have against them? Admiral, Zhang called out, his voice tight with tension. The formation is changing. On the tactical display, the massive structure began to shift. What had appeared to be a solid mass was revealing itself to be composed of countless smaller components, each one the size of a battleship. They moved with fluid precision, rearranging themselves into new configurations like a three-dimensional puzzle solving itself. It's beautiful, Dr. Martinez whispered, then caught herself. And absolutely terrifying. Suddenly, the ship's quantum resonance sensors began registering new contacts. More dark matter constructs were emerging from what had appeared to be empty space, decloaking or materializing around the Enterprise. Within minutes, the human ship found itself surrounded by alien vessels that existed in a realm of physics they barely understood. 12, 15, 20 contacts, Zhang reported, his voice climbing with each number. They're everywhere, Admiral. How did they get so close without us detecting them? Because they're using the dark matter itself as camouflage, Dr. Martinez realized. They can phase in and out of our perceptual reality at will. They've been watching us this entire time. The communications console suddenly erupted with activity. Lieutenant Park's hands flew over the controls as signals flooded every receiver on the ship. Admiral, we're receiving transmissions on frequencies that shouldn't even exist. The signal patterns they're incredibly complex. Almost like someone is downloading our entire computer system. Shields up, all stop, Sarah ordered. Can you block the transmissions? I'm trying, but they're not using electromagnetic radiation. This is something else entirely. Quantum entanglement communication, maybe? The signals are bypassing our normal communication arrays completely. The main view screen flickered and suddenly an image appeared that made everyone on the bridge step backward involuntarily. It wasn't any alien species they'd encountered before. The being, if it could be called that, seemed to exist partially in normal space and partially elsewhere. Its form shifted constantly, like looking at something through water that was both clear and impossibly deep. When it spoke, the voice seemed to come from everywhere at once, resonating through the ship's hull itself rather than the speakers. The universal translator struggled with the alien language, producing fragmented phrases that barely made sense. Small, matter-bound, interesting, quantum signature, familiar, old enemies. New form. Dr. Martinez was frantically working at her console. Admiral, their scanning methods are incredibly sophisticated. They're mapping our ship down to the molecular level, analyzing our technology, even examining our biological signatures. Can they understand us? Sarah asked, then addressed the alien presence directly. This is Admiral Sarah Chen of the Earth starship Enterprise. We come in peace, seeking dialogue. The shifting form on the screen paused, and for a moment its chaotic movement seemed to stabilize into something almost recognizable. A face, perhaps, or what a face might look like if viewed from another dimension entirely. Peace, the voice repeated, and this time the translator provided a cleaner interpretation. Concept, acknowledged. You are not the destroyers. Different quantum signature. But you see us, how? Sarah felt her heart racing. This was first contact with a completely unknown species, and possibly the most important conversation in human history. We developed technology to detect dark matter structures. We observed your formations approaching our territory. Territory, the being seemed to consider this. Matter space claims. Primitive concept, but understood. We returned to old hunting grounds. The destroyer's children have grown numerous. Time for cleansing. The word sent a chill through the bridge. Destroyers? Who are the destroyers? The alien's form shifted again, and suddenly the view screen filled with images. Star systems being consumed by artificial constructs. Planets stripped bare of life. Entire civilizations reduced to quantum patterns stored in crystalline matrices. The scale of destruction was unimaginable. They called themselves Council of Eternal Progress, the being continued. Masters of matter and energy. Builders of great machines. Consumers of worlds. We fought them across many cycles, drove them to extinction. But their children remain. Sarah's blood turned to ice. The Galactic Council? Different names. Same quantum signatures. Same hunger for growth. Same threat to dark matter equilibrium. The alien's voice carried undertones of ancient anger. We returned to finish old war. Dr. Martinez grabbed Sarah's arm. Admiral, the quantum signatures. They're talking about the fundamental particles that make up normal matter. To them, all matter-based life might look identical at the quantum level. The implications hit Sarah like a physical blow. These beings saw the current Galactic Council as descendants or successors to some ancient enemy. They couldn't distinguish between different matter-based civilizations. To them, humanity, the Zephyrians, the Vorthons, and every other species in the galaxy were all the same threat. Wait, Sarah said urgently. You're making a mistake. The current civilizations aren't the same as your ancient enemies. We're different peoples, different cultures. We have no connection to these destroyers you fought. The alien form flickered with what might have been confusion. Different? Same matter patterns, same expansion drives, same consumption methods. But different minds, different values, Sarah pressed. We can prove it. Let us show you that not all matter-based life is the same. The bridge held its breath as the alien presence seemed to consider this. Around them, the dark matter fleet waited in the void, each vessel capable of manipulating forces that could unmake entire star systems. Finally, the voice spoke again. Proof. You will provide proof. 1 solar cycle. If deception is detected, cleansing begins. The transmission ended, leaving the bridge in stunned silence. 37 days to prove that modern galactic civilization deserved to exist. Sarah sank into the captain's chair, her mind racing through the enormity of what they faced. An ancient war between matter and dark matter, with humanity caught in the middle, and somehow she had to convince both sides that peace was possible before the galaxy burned in the fires of a conflict that had raged since before Earth's sun was born. The emergency session of the Galactic Council convened in absolute chaos. Representatives from every major civilization filled the great chamber, their various forms of expression creating a cacophony of fear, disbelief, and barely controlled panic. Admiral Sarah Chen stood once again at the central podium, but this time every eye in the chamber was focused on her with desperate attention. Let me understand this correctly, High Archon Velith said, her crystalline form flickering with rapid color changes that indicated extreme stress. You made contact with these dark matter entities, and they told you they intend to destroy all matter-based life in the galaxy? Not destroy, Sarah corrected carefully. Cleanse. They believe the current galactic civilizations are descendants of an ancient enemy they call the Destroyers. According to their historical records, this Council of Eternal Progress was a civilization that consumed entire star systems for resources. The chamber erupted in angry voices. Commander Drix's mandibles clicked furiously as he spoke. Preposterous. Our civilizations have existed for thousands of years with careful resource management and environmental protection protocols. That's exactly what I told them, Sarah replied. But to beings that exist primarily in dark matter space, all matter-based life appears essentially identical at the quantum level. They can't distinguish between different civilizations or cultures. Elder Thoughtkeeper Zahn raised one of his many appendages for silence. When the chamber quieted, his ancient voice carried undertones of profound sadness. This explains much that has been forgotten. Our oldest archives speak of the Dark War, when entire sectors of space became empty. We assumed it was natural stellar evolution. Dr. Kilnara's energy form pulsed with urgent patterns. The mathematical implications are staggering. If these beings can manipulate dark matter as easily as we manipulate normal matter, their technological capabilities exceed ours by several orders of magnitude. How much time do we have? Asked Senator Korth, his reptilian features drawn with worry. 37 days, Sarah answered. They've given us one solar cycle to prove that modern galactic civilization is different from their ancient enemies. The silence that followed was deafening. Finally, High Archon Velith spoke in a voice barely above a whisper. How does one prove the worth of an entire galactic civilization in 37 days? Sarah had been thinking about that question during the entire journey back from the contact site. We need to understand what the destroyers actually were. If we can show concrete differences between their methods and ours, we might have a chance. Elder Zahn's form shifted as he accessed deep memory banks that hadn't been opened in millennia. The archives? Yes. The oldest records speak of a time when star systems were systematically stripped of all matter, converted into something else. Massive constructs that consumed planets and left behind only empty space. Like giant matter converters, Dr. Martinez added via the communication link from the Enterprise. If the destroyers were turning entire solar systems into raw materials for some kind of mega engineering project, that would explain why the dark matter entities see resource extraction as inherently threatening. Commander Drix's voice was uncharacteristically subdued. But we do extract resources. Every civilization here mines asteroids, harvests solar energy, terraforms planets. How is that different? Scale and purpose, Sarah realized. We extract what we need for our populations. The destroyers, according to the archives, were consuming entire star systems for construction projects. The dark matter entities might not understand the difference between sustainable resource use and total consumption. Senator Korth leaned forward. Then we need to show them our conservation efforts, our environmental protection laws, our population controls. More than that, Sarah said, her mind racing through possibilities. We need to show them that we can coexist with dark matter-based life, that we're not an existential threat to their realm of existence. High Archon Velith's form brightened with sudden insight. The quantum resonance technology that allowed you to detect them, it could potentially be adapted for communication as well, couldn't it? That's exactly what I'm hoping, Sarah confirmed. If we can establish better communication methods, maybe we can bridge the gap between matter and dark matter civilizations. Elder Zahn's voice carried a note of deep concern. But there is another problem. The archives speak of the destroyers not as a single civilization, but as a coalition, multiple species working together for their great project. If the dark matter entities see cooperation between different matter-based species as evidence of destroyer-like behavior, the implication hung in the air like a death sentence. The very thing that made the Galactic Council strong, cooperation, between diverse civilizations might be seen as proof that they were following in the destroyers' footsteps. We need to find out what happened to the original destroyers, Sarah said urgently. Why they really fell, what their ultimate goal was, and how the dark matter entities defeated them. That information might be the key to proving we're different. Dr. Kilnara's form pulsed with analytical patterns. The energy signatures from the dark matter fleet suggest they've been dormant for approximately 50,000 years. Whatever ended the original conflict, it happened long before any of our recorded histories. Then we dig deeper, Sarah declared. Every civilization here has archaeological sites, ancient ruins, unexplained artifacts. Somewhere in the galaxy there has to be evidence of what really happened. High Archon Velith straightened, her crystalline form resonating with determination. Very well. I hereby authorize full access to all Zephyrian archaeological databases and research facilities. Every artifact, every ruin, every piece of ancient technology. One by one, the other delegates followed suit. Even Commander Drix nodded grudgingly. The hegemony will contribute our deep core excavation records. If answers exist, we will find them. But 37 days, Senator Korth reminded them, to research 50,000 years of forgotten history, decode ancient technologies, and somehow prove our civilization's worth to beings that view reality from a completely different perspective. Sarah looked around the chamber at representatives of 47 different species, each with their own cultures, technologies, and perspectives. For the first time since joining the council, humanity wasn't the youngest or least experienced voice in the room. They were the bridge between worlds, the only species that could see both sides of this ancient conflict. "We'll need to work together like never before," she said. "Share everything. Technologies, historical records, scientific theories. The dark matter entities are watching us. They'll judge us not just on our words but on our actions." Elder Zan's ancient voice carried a note of hope. Perhaps that is the answer itself. The destroyers, according to legend, were driven by conquest and consumption. But here, in this chamber, 47 species choose cooperation over conflict, knowledge over ignorance. "Then we make sure they see that," Sarah said firmly. "We show them that the galaxy has learned from its ancient mistakes. That matter and dark matter can coexist." As the delegates hurried to implement their unprecedented cooperation, Sarah couldn't shake the feeling that time was running out faster than they realized. Somewhere in the void, an ancient enemy was watching, waiting to see if the children of the destroyers had truly changed. The fate of every living being in the galaxy now depended on proving that some wars didn't have to repeat themselves across the eons. Deep beneath the surface of Kepler 442b, in the archaeological dig site that had puzzled xenoarchaeologists for over 2 centuries, Dr. Elena Vasquez brushed cosmic dust away from an artifact that shouldn't exist. The crystalline structure pulsed with an inner light that seemed to respond to her presence, and the quantum resonance scanner in her hand was going insane with readings. "Admiral Chen," she spoke into her communicator, her voice tight with excitement and terror, "you need to see this. We found something." 3 days had passed since the frantic search began across 47 different worlds. Every archaeological site, every ancient ruin, every mysterious artifact in the galaxy was being re-examined with new purpose. The clock was ticking toward the dark matter entity's deadline, but Dr. Vasquez might have just found the key to everything. Admiral Sarah Chen materialized in the dig site via emergency transport, accompanied by a team of experts from multiple species. The underground chamber was vast, its walls covered in symbols that predated any known civilization by tens of thousands of years. "What am I looking at?" Sarah asked, staring at the pulsing crystal formation that dominated the center of the chamber. "A data storage device," Dr. Vasquez replied, "but not like anything we've ever seen. It's storing information in quantum superposition states. The amount of data it contains is theoretically impossible." Dr. Kilnara, who had taken physical form for this crucial investigation, approached the crystal with instruments that sparked and flickered in its presence. "The energy patterns are fascinating. It's almost as if the device exists partially in normal space and partially in somewhere else. Dark matter space," Sarah realized. "This is technology that bridges both realms." "That's not all," Dr. Vasquez continued, her voice growing more urgent. "We've been able to decode fragments of the stored information. Admiral, this is a historical record. A complete archive of the war between the destroyers and the dark matter entities." The crystal suddenly pulsed brighter, and holographic images began to form in the air around them. The team watched in amazement as the ancient history unfolded before their eyes like a 3-dimensional movie. They saw star systems filled with massive ring structures that encircled entire suns, harvesting stellar energy on an unimaginable scale. Planets were systematically disassembled, their matter converted into building materials for constructs that dwarfed anything in the current galaxy. The destroyers weren't just a single species. They were a coalition of over 100 different civilizations, all working toward a single, incomprehensible goal. "They were building something," Dr. Kilnara observed. "All of this destruction, all of this resource gathering, it was construction material for some kind of ultimate project." The hologram shifted, showing the dark matter entities in their natural state, beings of pure energy and exotic matter, existing in the spaces between atoms, riding the invisible currents of dark energy that permeated the universe. They had watched the destroyers' activities with growing alarm as entire sectors of space were stripped bare. "Look at the timestamps," Sarah said, studying the data flows. "This conflict lasted for over 10,000 years. The destroyers kept expanding their resource extraction, and the dark matter entities kept trying to stop them." Then the hologram showed something that made everyone in the chamber step backward in shock. The destroyer's ultimate construction was revealed, a massive structure that spanned multiple star systems, designed to convert matter into dark matter on a galactic scale. They weren't just consuming resources, they were planning to fundamentally alter the nature of reality itself. They were trying to transform the entire galaxy, Dr. Vasquez whispered. Convert all normal matter into dark matter, essentially erasing material existence as we know it. And that's when the dark matter entities struck back, Sarah realized, watching as the hologram showed the final battle. Dark matter fleets materialized throughout destroyer space, using weapons that manipulated gravity and space-time itself. The ring structures collapsed into black holes. The planetary mining operations were torn apart by gravitational anomalies, and entire star systems were reset to their natural states. But the most shocking revelation came at the end. The dark matter entities hadn't simply destroyed the destroyers, they had preserved them. The final images showed destroyer populations being converted into pure information and stored within dark matter matrices, not unlike the crystal device they were examining. They're still alive, Dr. Kilnara said in amazement. The destroyers weren't extinct. They were transformed and imprisoned. Sarah's communicator chimed with an urgent message. Admiral, this is the Enterprise. We're detecting massive quantum fluctuations from the dark matter fleet. Something's happening. On our way, Sarah replied, but before they could leave, the crystal device pulsed one final time. New holographic text appeared, and the universal translator worked frantically to render it into understandable language. Warning: temporal displacement detected. Prison matrices destabilizing. Destroyer consciousness patterns showing increased activity. Recommend immediate return to dark matter space for recalibration. The implications hit Sarah like a physical blow. The dark matter entities aren't just here to finish an old war. They're here because the destroyers are somehow breaking free from their prison. But where are they imprisoned? Dr. Vasquez asked. The answer came from the crystal itself. New coordinates appeared in the holographic display, a location in deep space that matched exactly with the current position of the dark matter fleet. The destroyers are imprisoned. Inside the dark matter constructs themselves, Sarah realized. Every ship in that fleet is a prison vessel. And if the prisoners are becoming more active, she didn't need to finish the thought. If the destroyers broke free from their dark matter prisons, they would resume their galaxy-spanning project to convert all matter into dark matter. The current galactic civilizations wouldn't just be conquered, they would be fundamentally erased from existence. We need to get this information to the dark matter entities immediately, Sarah said, her mind racing through the possibilities. They're not here to destroy us, they're here to prevent the destroyers from escaping. But even as she spoke, she realized the terrible irony of the situation. The dark matter entities saw current galactic civilization as potential destroyers because of quantum similarities. If they decided that the risk was too great, they might choose to sterilize the galaxy preemptively, rather than risk the real destroyers using modern civilizations as vectors for their escape. The race against time had just become infinitely more complicated. They had to convince ancient prison wardens that their prisoners' potential allies could actually become their greatest defenders, and they had less than 34 days to do it before the galaxy faced a choice between extinction and transformation into something unrecognizable. As Sarah prepared to return to the fleet, she took one last look at the crystal device. The repository of ancient knowledge had given them the truth they needed, but it had also revealed a threat far greater than anyone had imagined. The war between matter and dark matter wasn't over. It had simply been paused for 50,000 years. And now, whether they wanted to or not, every civilization in the galaxy was about to choose sides in a conflict that would determine the fundamental nature of reality itself. The quantum communication array aboard the Enterprise hummed with energy patterns that shouldn't have been possible with conventional technology. Dr. Rebecca Martinez had spent 18 straight hours modifying their systems to interface with dark matter space, using principles derived from the ancient crystal archive. Her eyes were bloodshot from staring at equations that seemed to rewrite themselves when she wasn't looking directly at them. "Are you sure this will work?" Admiral Sarah Chen asked, watching the swirling patterns of energy that danced around the modified communication dish. "Honestly, no," Dr. Martinez replied with exhausted honesty. "We're trying to create a stable communication bridge between normal matter and dark matter, using technology we barely understand, based on theories that were ancient when our sun was young. But it's our only chance. The bridge crew watched nervously as the communication array reached full power. Around them, space appeared empty to conventional sensors. But the quantum resonance displays showed the truth. They were completely surrounded by dark matter vessels, each one a prison ship containing the consciousness patterns of ancient destroyers. Initiating contact protocol, Lieutenant Park announced from the communications station, broadcasting on all quantum frequencies with the new interface modifications. The response was immediate and overwhelming. The viewscreen erupted with cascading patterns of light and shadow that seemed to exist in dimensions the human eye couldn't properly process. When the dark matter entity's form stabilized, it appeared more agitated than before, its shifting boundaries crackling with what might have been anxiety. Matter speakers. The voice resonated through the ship's hull with harmonics that made everyone's teeth ache. You return with new quantum signatures, explain. We found the truth, Sarah said, stepping forward. We know about the destroyer's real plan. We know they're imprisoned in your ships, and we know they're trying to escape. The alien presence paused, its form shifting through configurations that hurt to look at directly. Knowledge seekers found the archives of memory. Dangerous truth. How did matter minds comprehend dark space information? Dr. Martinez spoke up, her voice steady despite her exhaustion. We've been studying the interface between matter and dark matter for decades. When we found the archive, we were able to decode the quantum storage patterns. Impossible. Matter minds lack dimensional awareness for such comprehension. Not impossible, Sarah interjected. Different. Human science approaches quantum mechanics from a unique perspective. We've learned to see patterns that other species miss. The dark matter entity's form shifted again, and suddenly the viewscreen filled with new images. Not holograms this time, but direct quantum transmission of information into their brains. They saw the destroyer prison matrices in detail. Vast crystalline structures that contained billions of consciousness patterns in a state of suspended animation. But some of those patterns were becoming active, feeding on quantum fluctuations generated by the modern galactic civilizations. Every starship engine, every energy transmission, every quantum communication was providing tiny amounts of power to the imprisoned destroyers. Growing stronger, the entity confirmed. Your expansion creates quantum resonance that feeds prisoner matrices. Soon they will achieve escape threshold. Then we'll help you stop them, Sarah said firmly. The current galactic civilizations aren't your enemies. We can be your allies in keeping the destroyers contained. Matter minds propose alliance with dark space consciousness. Unprecedented. Previous matter civilizations sought only expansion and consumption. Dr. Martinez stepped forward, her scientific mind racing through the implications. Because we understand the threat now. The destroyers weren't just conquering territory. They were planning to fundamentally alter the nature of reality. We won't let that happen. Proof, the entity demanded. Words are quantum vibrations. Actions carry true meaning. Sarah had expected this. What kind of proof do you need? The dark matter entity's form stabilized into something that might have been thoughtful. Destroyers used quantum entanglement networks to coordinate their activities across vast distances. Your current civilizations use similar technologies. Our communication networks, Sarah realized. You want us to shut down galactic communications to stop feeding power to the destroyer matrices. More than communications, all quantum technology that creates resonance patterns. Matter minds must choose technological convenience or universal survival. The magnitude of what was being asked hit the bridge crew like a physical blow. The dark matter entities weren't just asking them to prove their good intentions, they were asking modern galactic civilization to voluntarily return to a pre-quantum technology state. That would cripple interstellar travel, Dr. Martinez said, her voice barely above a whisper. No faster-than-light communication, no quantum computers, no energy transmission networks. Billions of beings would be stranded on their homeworlds. But they would be alive, Sarah pointed out grimly. If the destroyers escape, there won't be any homeworlds left to be stranded on. Her communicator chimed with an incoming transmission from the Galactic Council. High Archon Velith's image appeared on the screen, her crystalline form flickering with patterns that indicated extreme distress. Admiral Chen, we've been monitoring energy fluctuations from our quantum networks. Something is interfering with galactic communications. Several star systems have reported complete communication blackouts. Sarah felt her stomach drop. High Archon, I need you to listen very carefully. We need to shut down all quantum technology across the galaxy immediately. What? That's impossible. Our entire civilization depends on quantum networks. The destroyer prisoners are using our quantum signatures to power their escape attempts, Sarah explained rapidly. Every quantum transmission, every faster-than-light communication, every energy transfer is feeding them power. The dark matter entity's voice interrupted the conversation, speaking directly through the galactic communication network itself. Archon Crystal Mind. We speak across matter-space barriers. Your choice approaches. Technology or existence. Velither's form went completely transparent with shock, something Sarah had never seen before from any Zephyrian. You're inside our communication systems. All quantum networks are connected. We see your civilization spread across Star Void. Impressive but dangerous. Destroyers see same networks as escape routes. Other faces began appearing on the communication screen as more council members joined the emergency session. Commander Drix's mandibles clicked frantically. Are you suggesting we voluntarily cut ourselves off from interstellar communication and travel? Return to pre-space levels of technology? Temporarily, Sarah said, though she wasn't sure how temporary it could be. Until we find a way to reinforce the destroyer prison matrices without quantum interference. Elder Thoughtkeeper. Xeon's ancient voice carried undertones of deep sadness. The archives speak of civilizations that chose isolation over extinction. Perhaps wisdom lies in remembering that survival is more important than convenience. Dr. Kilnar's energy form pulsed with analytical patterns. There might be another way. If we can modify our quantum technologies to operate on different frequency ranges, we might be able to maintain some capabilities without feeding the destroyer matrices. The dark matter entity's form shifted with what might have been interest. Matter science proposes frequency isolation? Explain. Quantum entanglement operates across multiple dimensional frequencies, Dr. Martinez said, catching on to the idea. If we can shift our technologies to operate in frequency ranges that don't resonate with the destroyer prison, matrices is possible but requiring complete technological restructuring, the entity replied. Time required several local cycles. Destroyer escape probability increases each quantum moment. Sarah looked around the bridge at her crew, then at the faces of galactic leaders on the communication screen. They were being asked to choose between the civilization they knew and the possibility of any civilization at all. How long do we have? She asked. Destroyer activity increasing exponentially. Estimate 12 local days before first matrix breach. After that, cascade failure inevitable. 12 days to convince 47 different civilizations to voluntarily cripple their technology, or to completely redesign the quantum foundations of galactic society. Either way, the clock was ticking toward a decision that would change the galaxy forever. But as Sarah looked at the determination in the faces around her, both human and alien, she realized something important. For the first time in galactic history, matter-based and dark matter-based consciousness were working together toward a common goal. Maybe that cooperation itself was the key to finding a solution that no single civilization could achieve alone. The silence across the galaxy was deafening. For the first time in over 3,000 years, every quantum communication network had gone dark simultaneously. 47 civilizations had made the unprecedented decision to trust each other completely, shutting down the technological foundations of their society based on the word of species they had barely known existed a week earlier. Admiral Sarah Chen stood on the bridge of the Enterprise, watching as teams of human, Zephyrian, Vorthan, and even hegemony engineers worked side by side to implement the most ambitious technological project in galactic history. They had 6 days left before the first destroyer matrix was predicted to breach, and every second counted. Frequency isolation test number 47, Dr. Rebecca Martinez announced, her voice hoarse from 3 days of continuous work. Around her, a multinational team of scientists manipulated equipment that combined the quantum theories of a dozen different species. Initiating quantum entanglement on frequency range 7.3 terahertz, the modified communication array hummed to life. Its crystalline components, grown using Zephyrian biotechnology and powered by Vorthan energy matrices, creating patterns that existed partially in normal space and partially in dark matter dimensions. For a moment, the test appeared successful. Then alarms began sounding. Throughout the ship, destroyer, Matrix resonance detected, reported Chief Science Officer Zhang. Test frequency is still feeding power to the prison systems. Dr. Martinez slumped in her chair, exhaustion written across her face. That's the 47th frequency range we've tested. At this rate, we'll need to test thousands more before we find one that works. We don't have thousands, Sarah said grimly. Dr. Kilnara, what's the status on your team's approach? The energy-based scientist's form flickered with frustrated patterns. We've managed to create quantum communication that operates in 11-dimensional space instead of 4-dimensional. It bypasses the destroyer matrices completely, but the power requirements are astronomical. We can maintain communication for perhaps minutes at a time. Better than nothing, Sarah acknowledged. Commander Drix, how is the biological communication network progressing? The insectoid engineer's mandibles clicked with what Sarah had learned to recognize as grudging respect. Your species' approach to quantum biology is unexpectedly sophisticated. We've successfully created organic quantum entanglement using modified neural tissue. Range is limited to single star systems, but it doesn't register on any technological sensors. And Elder Zaon's historical research? The archivists have found references to frequency shifting techniques in the oldest databases, came the reply through one of the few remaining communication channels. But the mathematical foundations are incomplete. It appears the original techniques were destroyed when the archives were sealed after the First Dark War. Sarah felt the weight of galactic civilization pressing down on her shoulders. 3 days of the greatest cooperative scientific effort in history, and they were still nowhere near a solution. Around her, beings from species that had been rivals or strangers were working together with a dedication that would have been impossible under normal circumstances. But it might not be enough. Admiral, Lieutenant Park called from the communication station. We're receiving a transmission from the dark matter fleet. It's different. Put it through. The view screen filled with the familiar shifting form of their dark matter contact. But this time the entity appeared more stable, more focused. When it spoke, its voice carried undertones that the universal translator interpreted as urgency mixed with something like hope. Matter minds show unexpected cooperation patterns. Dark space consciousness observes with interest. You attempt frequency isolation? We're trying, Sarah replied. But we haven't found a frequency range that doesn't feed power to the destroyer matrices. Because approach is incorrect, the entity said, its form shifting into configurations that hurt to look at directly. Frequency isolation requires understanding of prison matrix construction. We will share knowledge. The offer sent shockwaves through every scientist on the ship. The dark matter entities were offering to share their most closely guarded secrets, the technology they had used to imprison the destroyers 50,000 years ago. Why? Sarah asked. What changed your mind about trusting us? Observation of cooperation behaviors. 47 matter civilizations choose mutual survival over individual advantage. Unprecedented in matter space history. Dark space consciousness recognizes potential for true alliance. Dr. Martinez practically vibrated with excitement. Admiral, if they share the prison matrix specifications, we might be able to design quantum technologies that actually strengthen the containment instead of weakening it. More than that, Dr. Kilnara added, her energy form pulsing with analytical patterns. If we understand how the matrices work, we might be able to help improve them. Make the containment permanent. The dark matter entity's form shifted again, and suddenly the ship's systems were flooded with information that made their most advanced computers strain to process it. Technical specifications for technology that manipulated space and time itself, mathematical frameworks that described reality in terms no matter-based civilization had ever conceived, and construction techniques that could build stable structures from pure dark matter. This is incredible, Dr. Martinez whispered, staring at data streams that rewrote fundamental physics. They're showing us how to create matter that exists in quantum superposition permanently. We could build communication networks that operate in multiple dimensions simultaneously. Focus on the prison matrices first, Sarah ordered. How much time do we have left? Destroyer activity increasing beyond predicted parameters, the dark matter entity reported. First matrix breach now estimated in 4 local days. But with matter-mind cooperation and shared knowledge, solution becomes possible. What followed were the 4 most intense days in galactic history. Engineers and scientists from every council species worked around the clock, sharing knowledge and techniques that had been jealously guarded secrets for millennia. Humans contributed their unique approach to quantum mechanics. Zephyrians provided biotechnology that could interface with dark matter. Vortans offered energy manipulation techniques, and even the hegemony shared their mathematical frameworks for multidimensional calculation. The dark matter entities, meanwhile, provided guidance and technical specifications that allowed matter-based technology to interact safely with dark matter systems. For the first time in 50,000 years, the barriers between matter and dark matter science began to dissolve. On the final day, as alarms screamed warnings that the first destroyer matrix was approaching critical instability, teams across the galaxy activated the new quantum communication network simultaneously. Instead of operating on frequencies that fed the prison systems, the network was designed to actively reinforce them, using quantum entanglement to distribute the containment load across multiple dimensional layers. "All stations report successful activation," Lieutenant Park announced, his voice filled with relief and amazement. "The new network is stable and shows no resonance with destroyer matrices." "More than stable," Dr. Martinez added, studying the readouts with wonder. "It's actually strengthening the containment. Destroyer activity levels are dropping back to normal parameters." On the view screen, the dark matter entity's form had stabilized into something that might have been satisfaction. "Success. Prison matrices reinforced. Destroyer escape probability reduced to acceptable levels. Matter minds prove worthy of alliance." Sarah felt the tension drain from her shoulders for the first time in over a week. What happens now? Now matter space and dark space civilizations learn from each other. New technologies, new possibilities, new forms of cooperation. The galaxy evolves beyond ancient limitations. As Sarah looked around the bridge at her crew, humans, aliens, and dark matter entities working together toward common goals, she realized they had achieved something unprecedented. Not just the prevention of galactic catastrophe, but the birth of a truly integrated civilization that transcended the boundaries between matter and dark matter. The Galactic Council would never be the same. Neither would humanity's place in it. They had gone from being the youngest members to being the bridge between worlds, the species that helped forge an alliance between forms of life so different they existed in separate layers of reality. And somewhere in the deep archives of their new quantum networks, plans were already being drawn for exploration beyond the galaxy itself, where matter and dark matter civilizations could work together to unlock the secrets of the universe itself. The age of cooperation between matter and dark matter had begun, and the galaxy would never tremble in fear again, at least, not from threats it would have to face alone.